What if no one came to help? What if no one believed in you, encouraged you, or lifted you up when you were down? Would you still rise? Would you still walk even with trembling feet? Would you still carry your dreams on your back even when no one clapped for you? Life at its core is not about applause. It's about movement, about breath, about showing up, even when no one is watching. Because sometimes the world will stay silent. And in that silence you will have a choice. Break or build, wait or walk. This is where real transformation begins, not in noise, not in comfort, but in your decision to stand up, alone. This is your path. No one else can walk it for you. There's a quiet truth that most people run from. But the Buddha didn't. He faced it, embraced it, and he spoke it without hesitation. No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. It's not just poetic. It's not just a wise-sounding phrase carved on a wall or quoted in a book. It is, in fact, the foundation of your life. And whether you accept it or not, you are responsible for your becoming. You were born alone. No matter how loving your parents, how crowded the hospital room, you came into this world with your own breath, your own heart, your own karma. And one day you will leave it alone. Your final breath will be yours. Your final thoughts, whatever they may be, will rise from your mind alone. Not your spouse's, not your children's, not your teacher's. Between those 2 points, birth and death, what happens is up to you. People spend so much energy waiting for someone to come fix them, waiting for a sign, a savior, a shortcut. But Buddha didn't wait. He walked away from the palace, from comfort, from power, from everything that others spend their lives chasing. And he walked alone, not because he wanted to be isolated, but because he understood the path is personal. It can only be walked by one set of feet, yours. Yes, there are teachers, there are books, there are wise friends along the way, but they are not the path. They are not your legs. They are not your courage. You are. In modern life, we are conditioned to think that everything good comes with a group. Group therapy, group learning, group belonging. And while there is value in connection, transformation is always an inside job. It happens in the silence, in the decision no one else sees, in the moment where you choose to show up to your own healing, even if no one else claps. Buddhism isn't about running away from the world. It's about running inward, to the truth that lives underneath the noise. You don't need a crowd to be worthy. You don't need a mentor to begin. You don't need permission to awaken. You need sincerity. You need presence. And above all, you need to own the fact that this path, this breath, this life, is yours. The Buddha didn't promise ease. He promised truth. And the truth is, you must do the walking. Not because others don't care, but because no one else can walk for you. When you accept that, you stop waiting. You stop blaming. You start breathing differently, living differently. You begin to rise, not because someone pushed you, but because you chose to rise. And in that moment, the path doesn't feel so lonely anymore. It feels real. It feels sacred. Because now, it belongs to you. But before you can walk your path with strength, you must first walk it in silence. Because silence is not absence. It's presence. It's not a void. It's a space. A sacred space where your mind stops shouting and your soul begins to whisper. In the modern world, silence is often feared. People rush to fill it, with music, with noise, with distractions. They say, it's too quiet in here. But the truth is, they're afraid of what might rise up in the quiet. Thoughts, regrets, unfinished truths. But Buddha didn't run from silence. He ran toward it. He sat beneath the Bodhi tree, not surrounded by followers, not bathed in luxury, but wrapped in silence. A silence so deep, it became the doorway to awakening. The great awakening of Buddha didn't begin with noise. It began with breath, with stillness, with the audacity to sit and do nothing but observe. True wisdom isn't found in words. It's found in the space between them, in the gap between thoughts, in the pause between breaths. And that's why silence is not emptiness. It's potential. The raw potential for insight, for truth, for peace. Most people think of solitude as loneliness. But solitude, when chosen with purpose, becomes a sanctuary. A temple without walls. A classroom without books. A home where the only voice that matters is your own. When you sit in silence long enough, you begin to hear the truth. Not the noisy truth of the world, but the subtle truth of your own being. And that's why so many run from it. Because silence shows you what you've been hiding, what you've ignored, what you need to heal. In silence, the ego dies, and the self, your true self, begins to emerge. Not the version you show others, not the performance, but the part of you that never needed approval to exist. There's a reason every spiritual tradition values stillness. There's a reason monks retreat. Why sages go into the forest. Why Buddha sat beneath the tree for 49 days. It wasn't to escape life. It was to see life more clearly. You cannot heal a wound you won't look at. You cannot quiet a mind you won't sit with. And you cannot find wisdom in a world that never stops talking. But in silence, you hear the deeper voice. The one that says, you are enough. You are already whole. You are not alone in the stillness. You are returning to yourself. So don't fear silence. Walk into it. Sit with it. Let it hold you like a mountain holds wind. Gently, without resistance. Because when the world grows loud, your greatest power will always begin in silence. Silence gives you clarity. But clarity without action is like light without direction. It illuminates nothing unless you move. And this is where discipline comes in. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more hype, more excitement, or more cheering. What you truly need is devotion. The quiet kind, the daily kind, the kind that doesn't depend on your mood. The Buddha didn't wake up every day waiting to feel inspired. He practiced. He meditated. He walked. He lived the Eightfold Path, not once, not twice, but every day. Because freedom isn't found in temporary highs. It's built through consistency. Discipline is not about punishment. It's not rigid. It's not cold. True discipline is an act of love. When you rise early to meditate, when you pause to breathe before reacting, when you choose honesty over convenience, you're not being strict. You're being free. The world sells you ease, comfort, convenience, but comfort often cages you. Freedom doesn't come from doing what you want. It comes from doing what's right, even when it's hard. The Eightfold Path was never meant to be theory. It's a practice, a daily alignment between intention and action. Each step, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, is not a checklist. It's a lifestyle. And with each step you lay a brick of inner strength, a brick of wisdom, a brick of compassion, until one day you look back and realize, you've built a fortress of freedom inside yourself. Most people wait for a perfect moment. Discipline doesn't. Discipline begins even when the weather is stormy, even when the heart is heavy, even when no one is watching. It is a commitment to your own becoming. Some days discipline looks like waking up at 5 a.m. to meditate. Other days it's choosing silence when anger rises. Some days it's doing the difficult work. Other days it's resting with full presence. Discipline doesn't mean never breaking. It means returning, again and again, to your path. The truth is, you will fall. You will forget. You will stumble. But discipline says, come back. Sit down. Breathe. Begin again. That is how you become unstoppable. Not because you never failed, but because you refuse to stay down. Discipline isn't a cage. It's the key. The key to peace. The key to clarity. The key to becoming the person your soul came here to be. So practice. Not once. Not when it's convenient. But every day. In every breath. In every step. Because discipline builds the kind of freedom no one can ever take from you. Discipline shows you the path. But once you start walking it, you'll meet your greatest challenge. Not outside, but within. Because when you walk alone, your shadows rise. In the stillness of solitude, something strange happens. All the noise you've buried begins to echo. All the emotions you've ignored begin to speak. All the fears you've denied step into the light. Not to hurt you, but to be seen. The Buddha knew this. That's why he didn't fear Mara. Because Mara was never just a demon out there. Mara was craving. Mara was fear. Mara was illusion. And Mara lived inside the mind. On the night of his enlightenment, as Siddhartha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, Mara sent everything he had. Beautiful temptations, terrifying visions, storms of doubt. But Buddha remained still. He didn't fight. He didn't run. He simply watched. With presence. With awareness. And in doing so he disarmed them all. You must do the same. When anger arises, don't become it. When fear whispers, don't obey it. When shame returns, don't hide from it. Witness. Breathe. Stay. That is how the demons dissolve. Not through war, but through the unwavering light of awareness. Modern life teaches us to escape, numb the pain, distract the mind. But Buddhism teaches us to turn inward, to walk through the fire, to face the parts of ourselves we've locked away. Because true liberation isn't avoiding darkness. It's understanding it, holding it, and finally, letting it go. You are not broken because you feel pain. You are not weak because you struggle. You are human. And the path to awakening is not clean or perfect. It's messy. It's raw. But it is beautiful. The monsters in your mind lose power the moment you look them in the eye. The moment you say, I see you. I'm not running anymore. I'm here. And in that moment, you reclaim your power. Remember, even Buddha faced Mara. Even the most enlightened encountered fear, doubt, and confusion. The difference is, they didn't let it define them. So sit with your darkness. Invite your shadows to tea. Ask them what they've come to teach you. And listen with a heart wide open. Because inside every fear is a lesson. Inside every wound is wisdom. Inside every demon is the doorway to your liberation. After facing your inner demons, you might expect fireworks, a breakthrough, some kind of grand awakening. But real transformation? It rarely arrives with noise. It comes quietly, one step at a time. The Buddha didn't become enlightened overnight. He practiced. He sat. He returned again and again to the breath, to the moment, to the path. And he reminded us, drop by drop, the bucket is filled. Not all at once. Not in a rush. But with patience. We live in a world addicted to speed. We want change in 7 days. Healing in 24 hours. Success in one viral post. But the soul doesn't move that way. The heart doesn't transform through force. It softens slowly, like a stone shaped by water. One of the most radical acts in the modern world is this. To take small, steady, conscious steps, every day. Even when no one notices. Even when progress feels invisible. Because progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just you choosing not to give up. You woke up and sat in silence today? That's progress. You paused before speaking harshly? That's growth. You forgave someone? That's a miracle in motion. Every small step is sacred. Every mindful action adds up. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. And persistence, guided by awareness, becomes power. The Buddha didn't promise immediate results. He didn't offer shortcuts. Instead, he offered the Eightfold Path. Not as a sprint, but as a rhythm. A way of life that flows like a quiet stream, gentle, steady, unstoppable. Sometimes your steps will feel too slow. You'll wonder if it's even working. But remember, bamboo grows roots for years before rising above the soil. Progress is often invisible, until it isn't. And one day, you'll look back and realize, you are no longer who you used to be. Not because of one big moment, but because of thousands of quiet, powerful choices. This is the path. step by step, breath by breath, drop by drop, until one day, you become the ocean. You've walked slowly. You've walked with discipline. You've walked through fear. Now comes the greatest freedom of all. The freedom that comes from mastering yourself. The world teaches us to control. Control schedules. Control relationships. Control outcomes. But the Buddha taught something radically different. Better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles. Because external victory is temporary. But internal mastery? That changes everything. You don't need to control the world. You don't need to fix everyone else. You only need to understand, train, and guide your own mind. Because when you master your mind, you master your life. Thoughts will arise. Cravings will whisper. Doubts will knock. But the awakened one sees them for what they are. Passing clouds in a vast sky. They are not you. They are just weather. Imagine the mind as a wild elephant. Left alone, it tramples, destroys, and reacts. But trained with patience, love, and wisdom, it becomes calm, powerful, and peaceful. This is the work of self-mastery. And it is not about force. It's not about suppression. True self-mastery is not control through fear. It's guidance through awareness. It's meeting your anger with breath. Your jealousy with compassion. Your fear with stillness. The Buddha never said, "You must never feel anger." He simply taught us not to let anger rule. To see it, feel it, understand it, and let it go. That's the difference between reaction and response. Between being controlled and being in command. Most people live as slaves to their thoughts. They chase every craving. They believe every fear. They react to every trigger. But the one who masters themselves pauses. They observe. They choose. They lead their mind instead of following it blindly. And in that space, between thought and action, freedom is born. You will not always succeed. You will forget. You will slip. But every time you return, every time you pause, every time you witness instead of react, you strengthen your mastery. Self-mastery is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about remembering who you are. Even in the middle of the storm, no one can master you for you. Not your teacher. Not your partner. Not even your spiritual guide. This is your work, your freedom, and your power. Because the one who conquers kingdoms may be feared. But the one who conquers themselves, they are truly free. You began this journey alone, uncertain, afraid, searching. You sat in silence. You walked through shadows. You chose breath over reaction. You chose presence over distraction. And without realizing it, you became the light you once searched for. The world may never see your battles. They may not know how many times you returned to the cushion, to the silence, to yourself. But you will know. You will carry that knowing in your walk, in your voice, in the calm behind your eyes. You are no longer walking to the path. You are the path. And wherever your footsteps land, they leave behind quiet invitations for others to awaken too. You are not just walking alone. You are leading the way.